Picture Europe in the 14th century. Castles dot the landscape, standing as imposing symbols of power and protection. These stone fortresses were not just homes for the nobility, but also served as military strongholds and administrative centers. Knights in shining armor, well, not always so shiny, ride out on quests. These knights, often the younger sons of noble families, were bound by the chivalric code, which emphasized bravery, honor, and respect for women and the weak. Their lives were filled with rigorous training, tournaments, and the occasional battle. Okay, maybe not exactly like in the storybooks, the reality was often grittier, with knights dealing with the harshness of medieval life, from muddy roads to the constant threat of conflict. It was the age of feudalism, a system where lords granted land to vassals in exchange for loyalty and military service. This intricate web of obligations and allegiances formed the backbone of medieval society, ensuring that everyone knew their place and duties. Think of it as a giant pyramid scheme, but instead of selling questionable weight loss products, they were trading land and military service. At the top were the kings and queens, followed by powerful lords, knights, and finally, the peasants. At the bottom of this social pyramid were the peasants, who toiled the land, paid their taxes, and probably dreamed of one day owning a castle themselves. Their lives were hard, filled with endless labor, but they were the backbone of the medieval economy, producing the food and goods that sustained everyone else. A peasant can dream, right? Despite their tough lives, peasants found moments of joy and community, celebrating festivals and sharing stories by the fire. Trade routes crisscrossed Europe, connecting distant cities and fueling the growth of towns. Merchants traveled these routes, bringing exotic goods, spices, and ideas from far-off lands, contributing to the slow but steady transformation of medieval society. The Black Death, a devastating plague, had swept through Europe in the previous century, leaving its mark on population and society. This catastrophic event led to significant social and economic changes, as the drastically reduced population meant labor was in short supply, giving surviving peasants more bargaining power. But despite the challenges, Europe was slowly but surely emerging from the medieval period, setting the stage for the Renaissance and the Age of Exploration. This new era would bring about unprecedented advancements in art, science, and global exploration, forever changing the course of history. Meanwhile, across the vast Atlantic Ocean, a world unknown to Europeans thrived in splendid isolation. The Americas were home to a stunning diversity of indigenous cultures, each with unique traditions, languages, and ways of life. From the Arctic to the tip of South America, these societies had flourished for centuries, adapting to a wide range of environments and developing complex social structures. Imagine vast empires, bustling cities, and intricate trade networks, all hidden from European eyes. These were not simply scattered tribes of hunter-gatherers, as some early Europeans imagined. The Americas were a tapestry of civilizations, some as sophisticated as any in the Old World. In the heart of Mesoamerica, the Aztecs ruled over a mighty empire centered on the island city of Tenochtitlan, built on a lake in what is now Mexico. Known for their fierce warriors and complex religious beliefs, the Aztecs had developed a sophisticated system of agriculture, writing, and astronomy. They even had a calendar more accurate than the one used in Europe at the time. Their capital, Tenochtitlan, was a marvel of engineering, with canals, causeways, and towering pyramids dedicated to their gods. The Aztecs were skilled astronomers, mathematicians, and architects, their achievements a testament to their ingenuity and cultural sophistication. High in the Andes Mountains of South America, the Inca Empire stretched for thousands of miles, connected by a network of roads and bridges that would have put the Romans to shame. Ruled by an emperor considered the descendant of the sun god, the Incas had a highly organized society, with a strong central government and a system of social welfare that provided for the sick and elderly. They were masters of terrace farming, adapting to the challenging terrain of the Andes to create a sustainable food supply. Their metalwork, textiles, and pottery were renowned for their beauty and craftsmanship, reflecting the richness and diversity of Inca culture. Section 5. Trade and Innovation, Bridging Worlds. Both Europe and the Americas were connected by intricate networks of trade. In Europe, goods flowed along established routes bringing spices from the east, textiles from the Middle East, and furs from the north. The Hanseatic League, a powerful merchant guild, dominated trade in northern Europe, while Italian city-states like Venice and Genoa controlled the Mediterranean Sea. In the Americas, trade was just as vital, with goods like obsidian, feathers, and textiles traveling vast distances. The Inca road system, stretching over 25,000 miles, facilitated the movement of goods and information throughout the empire. Trade wasn't just about material goods either. It also involved the exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. Section 6. Cultural contrasts, worlds apart. Despite these similarities, the cultures of Europe and the Americas were worlds apart. Imagine trying to explain the concept of a knight in shining armor to an Aztec warrior, or the intricacies of feudalism to an Inca farmer. Their languages, religions, and social structures were vastly different, shaped by centuries of isolation and adaptation to their unique environments. Europeans in the 14th century were deeply religious, with Christianity shaping every aspect of their lives. The church held immense power, influencing politics, education, and culture. In contrast, the indigenous peoples of the Americas had their own diverse belief systems, often polytheistic and deeply connected to nature. Section 7. The Encounter, Seeds of Change. Little did the people of these two worlds know that their isolation was about to end. The vast Atlantic Ocean, which had long served as a barrier, was about to become a bridge connecting two very different worlds. In 1492, a Genoese explorer named Christopher Columbus, funded by the Spanish crown, set sail westward across the Atlantic, hoping to find a new route to the East Indies. His journey was fraught with uncertainty and peril, but Columbus was driven by a vision of untold riches and new territories. His arrival in the Caribbean, mistaking it for the Indies, would have consequences far greater than he could have imagined. The initial encounters between Columbus and the indigenous peoples were marked by curiosity and cautious interaction. Columbus's voyages marked the beginning of a new era, one of global contact, exchange, and unfortunately, conflict. The exchange of goods, ideas, and even diseases between the Old World and the New World began to reshape societies on both sides of the Atlantic. The encounter between Europe and the Americas would forever alter the course of history, leading to the rise of new empires, the exchange of goods and ideas, and the tragic decimation of indigenous populations. The seeds of change planted by Columbus's voyages would grow into a complex and often painful legacy, shaping the modern world in profound ways. Section 8. A Legacy of Exchange, from Chocolate to Potatoes. The Columbian Exchange, as it's known, brought about a massive transfer of plants, animals, and diseases between the Old World and the New. Europeans were introduced to new foods like tomatoes, potatoes, corn, chocolate, and tobacco, which would transform their diets and agricultural practices. Imagine a world without pizza, French fries, or chocolate chip cookies. These culinary delights, along with countless others, owe their existence to the exchange that followed Columbus's voyages. The Americas, in turn, received wheat, rice, coffee, and domesticated animals like horses, cattle, and pigs, forever altering their landscapes and agricultural practices. Section 9. The Columbian Exchange, a Biological Revolution. The Columbian Exchange was more than just a swap meet of crops and livestock. It was a biological revolution. Unfortunately, not all of the consequences were positive. Along with food and animals, Europeans unknowingly brought with them a host of diseases to which the indigenous populations had no immunity. Smallpox, measles, influenza, and other diseases ripped through the Americas like wildfire, decimating indigenous populations and weakening their resistance to European conquest. The demographic collapse that followed was one of the greatest tragedies in human history, with some estimates suggesting that up to 90% of the indigenous population perished. Section 10. The Other Side of the Coin, Disease and Conquest. The arrival of Europeans also ushered in an era of conquest and colonization. This period marked a significant turning point in world history, as the Old World met the New World in a collision of cultures, economies, and ideologies. Driven by a thirst for gold, land, and religious zeal, European powers carved up the Americas, establishing colonies and exploiting the resources and labor of indigenous populations. The quest for wealth and dominance led to the establishment of vast colonial empires, each vying for supremacy. The Aztec and Inca empires, once mighty civilizations, were toppled by Spanish conquistadors, their wealth plundered, and their cultures suppressed. The Spanish, armed with superior weaponry and driven by a relentless pursuit of riches, dismantled these great empires with ruthless efficiency. The consequences of European colonization were profound and long-lasting, shaping the political, economic, and social landscapes of the Americas for centuries to come. The introduction of European governance, religion, and economic systems fundamentally altered the fabric of indigenous societies. The transatlantic slave trade, a direct result of European colonization, brought millions of Africans to the Americas in chains, their forced labor fueling the growth of colonial economies. This brutal system of human exploitation left an indelible mark on the history of the Americas, creating deep social and racial divides that persist to this day. Section 11. Conclusion: A world transformed. The encounter between Europe and the Americas in the 15th century was a watershed moment in human history. It shattered the geographical barriers that had separated these two worlds for millennia, setting in motion a chain of events that would reshape the globe. While the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies enriched both hemispheres, the consequences of disease and conquest cast a long shadow over this era of exploration and encounter. The Columbian Exchange serves as a powerful reminder of the interconnectedness of our world and the profound and often unintended consequences of human actions.